Welcome to my wonderful video here. And today I plan on talking on the topic of diabetes. It's an interesting experience. Many of you probably don't know me, and that's okay, even though you're missing out on quite a lot of interesting things. Let me just start off by telling you one interesting fact about myself. One of the many interesting facts. Well, I have type 1 diabetes. It's not really that bad, I'm not ill, like seriously deathly ill. I do a lot of things that other people do and more, I'm pretty exceptional. But in this video, I want to tell you about my story. Basically, how I was diagnosed. A lot of people, when they find out they have diabetes, they're diagnosed because they're actually hospitalized, because they passed out, and they almost died. But for me, that didn't happen. Luckily, my mother knew the symptoms. So let's get straight into it. This happened in 2014. I was 12 years old, I remember. And this was around late June. And I started experiencing some symptoms. And the symptoms I was experiencing were from hyperglycemia, also known as high blood sugar. And it was, I didn't know what was going on. I started to get headaches. I was super thirsty and I had to pee a lot. I know that's a lot of information, but y'all gotta know. Y'all need to write this down. Write these down, okay? Write down the symptoms. I was getting tired. I had that, and at first, I think my mom just thought I just had a headache and I was thirsty. So I remember one day we were on our way to a Charlie Brown play, and she got me this huge thing of freckled lemonade from Wendy's. And let me tell you, it was delicious, but it was super sweet. And the thing with hyperglycemia is it means you have too much sugar attached to your blood cells. And so me drinking that very sugar-filled drink was not helping at all, even though I didn't know and she didn't know at the time. But later on, I kept getting up in the middle of the night, having to drink water and having to go to the restroom. So my mother one time woke up, and it's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, I'm super thirsty, I don't know why. And she was like, okay. I was like, my throat's dry and everything. She said, all right. She looked a little concerned. So later on, she took me to the doctor because I think she noticed what was going on. And I got some blood tests. I got my blood drawn. And then after that, I went home. And she told me that the symptoms that I was experiencing could possibly be the symptoms of diabetes. I was a little concerned at the time. I wasn't ready to get a chronic condition at the time, and I was so young and ignorant that I thought diabetes is when you can't eat anything with sugar in it. And I like sweet things, I like food in general, but I didn't know what would lie ahead for me. So later on July 1st, that's my diaversary, that was the day I was diagnosed. The people called and they told my mom that tests came back and I had type 1 diabetes. So she told me, and I actually took it very well. Not to brag, I took it very well. I was like, okay, because I was like, goodbye cake, goodbye ice cream, goodbye candy. I'm like, it's okay. Those things are probably not good for you anyway. That's not how things were gonna be. That is not how things were going to be for me. So either it was that day or the following day, I went to the general hospital and I had to stay the night because I didn't know how to take care of myself. So they took care of me there. And I remember they showed me how to use syringes so I could put the insulin in my body. So let me step back for a second. What are you talking about? The insulin in your body? What are you talking about? Well, with everybody, except for me, of course, and other type 1 diabetics, your pancreas produces insulin. That's a hormone. And what it does, it turns any sugar that enters into your body into energy. So that's how a lot of people get super hyper, They eat a lot of sugar, that insulin turns that into energy. You got so much energy. But as a diabetic, if you don't have insulin, you can't get hyper. You just get like sluggish and hyperglycemia. You get high blood sugar. You get a headache. You have to pee. You're thirsty. Just so many other things going on. That's what I had to use. I had to use insulin. So basically, I was doing the work that my pancreas could not do, and I didn't know that's what diabetes was. I thought it was you can't eat cake, but that's not the case. With type 1 diabetes specifically, you had to do the work your pancreas just wasn't able to do anymore. So I would have to inject insulin through a syringe, and they taught me how to do that. I got to practice like on an orange one time, and then of course I went into myself. When I was in the hospital, my blood sugar was as high as 400, which some people have gone way higher than that, but mine was in the 400s, which is high. You don't want it that high. And we need to bring it lower. So find out my blood sugar is high, you take insulin to bring it down. Later on, I also learned that you could take too much insulin. But where I learned that was not at the general hospital. I learned that the following day or so when they sent me to Vanderbilt's hospital, and that's of course in Nashville. That's where they educated me about diabetes. And we had these education sessions, all these classes. There were some times I was with a group of other parents and kids who were learning about diabetes, and there were moments where it was just one-on-one, and they would teach me about certain things, what I need to do, what I need to put into my routine, what insulin you need to use. And they would, of course, talk to my parents about, insurance, supplies, so many things. And I would go back there, like back and forth. I was there like almost every week or something. And we would go and we would travel about 2 hours because we lived 2 hours from Nashville. I learned about also something called hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. So either you haven't eaten, like you skipped too many meals or you skipped snacks, or you've taken too much insulin. That was one thing I learned about. And I experienced both in my days. I was at Vanderbilt for quite a few times, and these classes lasted about 4 hours. Sometimes we would take a break to eat lunch, go back in. It was cold, it was long, it was informative, but it would get boring sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. But I learned a lot. And from then on, I would go back and forth at Vanderbilt. That's where my checkups are now. I go to Vanderbilt to have my checkups with my pediatrician. I remember back in the day when I was there at Vanderbilt, we did a lot more than I do now, probably because I didn't know as much. I would have a nutritionist. I would have somebody telling me about how to work certain supplies, and then I would do my normal checkups. But now that I know how to do, the food and the supplies on my own, all I do is go and do checkups, and that's every 3 months. So I'm not there as often. So I remember my dad came down hearing about my diagnosis as soon as he could. Normally he comes down later because he works, and he has to come later because he works at a school and they get out like late June, and he would have to come a little bit after the beginning of July. But he came down sooner than normal because of my diagnosis, which was very sweet. Those of you who have been recently diagnosed and things like that, and you're confused about so many things, listen, it is hard at first, and I know it's hard, but you can go through it. I went through it. I've been having diabetes for about 6 years, and right now I'm living a life like any other kid would. Only thing is I wear a pump on my side. That's it. I can play sports. I play sports all the time. You can go swimming, just gotta take your pump off, depending what kind of pump you get. If you have a pump in general, you can do anything. You can eat anything. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do as a diabetic, especially if they're not diabetic themselves and they're not a doctor for diabetes, especially type 1 diabetes. So you're gonna be okay. You just gotta get through it. Most of all, when you go through it, don't go through it alone. There's people who have been in your shoes. I've been in your shoes. There are people who have more experience than me. And for you parents out there, I know that's hard. And you want your child to live the best life. You want them to be perfectly healthy. But there's some things you can't control. Especially type 1 diabetes, nobody can get it and it be their fault. It's a genetic thing. It just comes, You just get it. The best thing you can do is to support your child, to be there whenever they need you. That's the best you can do, and trust me, it goes a long way. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna post more videos about diabetes and many, many, many other things. Hope you guys enjoyed my video, and I'll talk to you on the other side. Bye.